This is an example to why you shouldn't take DXM and DPH when you are depressed. This is coming from the same guy who went jogging barefoot on a DPH psychosis. You thought I would have learned my lesson and stopped at DPH by now, right? Nope, the addiction was still going strong. This time I ended up almost dying when I added Dramamine to the mix. Day 1. This story happened when someone who I thought was my friend and could be trusted betrayed that trust and robbed me. He stole an electric scooter that I bought for $50,000. This is what leads me to go on an absurd binge that would take any regular person to a psych ward. On that same night, I got a prescription for mirtazapine. I used to lie to my doctor about having depression in order to get it, so it was a new delirium to experiment with. Ironically, I actually ended up having depression later on. So instead of using mirtazapine for depression, I took 150 milligrams of it and ended up taking it in combination with 300 milligrams both DXM and DPH in order to try and trip off of it. Now, because of my high tolerance, I would not get visuals from doing DXM and DPH, but when I added mirtazapine to the mix, there were finally the visuals I was chasing. Unfortunately, the next day, the amnesia made me not remember any of the visuals, so it seemed like a bit of a waste if it was a good experience but you can't remember any of it. The safety of this combination was also questionable at best. Day 2. I realized I got robbed as my calls were not getting through to the person who I was meant to have sold my bike to. Realizing this, I thought to escape the pain, I will just get really high on DXM. Well, if only it was that easy. I actually ended up being in way more pain than I bargained for. I ended up taking, I think, a total of 1,200 milligrams of DXM. Now on the come down of it, I started getting pain in my dick. This is where I just felt like I kept needing to piss, and after I empty my bladder, I immediately feel like I need to piss again. This repeated cycle of me constantly trying to urinate somehow irritated my bladder or something, and it gave me an extremely uncomfortable rest of the night. I really should have taken this as a lesson and stopped doing drugs, but I didn't. Day 3. I'm still depressed, still feel like getting more high. Now, I am not normally this reckless, but I think I just stopped giving a fuck at this point. In order to escape reality, I plan to take more DXM and DPH, not really thinking or caring about any potential consequences. I had the dose of 600 milligrams of both DXM and DPH waiting for me to be taken in a bottle cap. I left the cap on my bed and go for a piss, come back, and for some reason the 300 milligrams of DPH has fallen out of it and into the bed, so the cap only had 600 milligrams of DXM and 300 milligrams of DPH now. I thought this was a sign from God or something to not take the amount I plan on taking. I thought whatever and take the dose and just ended up going for a nap. I must have slept for a few hours, but when I woke up I was still depressed as fuck and was still not as high as I wanted to be. My delusion of sobriety has probably consumed me at this point. So despite the warning of not doing any more DPH, I end up dosing 300 milligrams of fucking Dramamine instead, which is even worse, and then had a weed vape with it. I really took being able to pee normally for granted. Oh boy, stay tuned for what's coming next. The first effect I noticed was that my thoughts were different. I don't want to go into detail what those thoughts were, but they were evil and delusional. For some reason, I also felt like listening to evil music as I was coming up. Then I remember as I was laying there, I started to notice myself blink. I have never in my life noticed myself do this, and thought this was really bizarre, that it felt like I had to manually blink. Now call me crazy here, but I think it was a sign of demonic possession, especially with the types of thoughts that I was having. So back to the story, I noticed that something doesn't feel right as my heart rate is going up in an uncomfortable way. Then a voice in my head told me, and I am paraphrasing here, that I have finally fucking killed myself. I then nonchalantly went upstairs to tell my friend that he could have my stuff in my room as I am dying. I wanted him to have my expensive headphones. He asked me how many pills I took, and I just told him a lot. He then thinks he needs to call an ambulance, and I was actually begging him not to call them because I wanted to die. I remember even refusing to drink any water. One time, as I tried to drink it, I immediately spit it out. I couldn't tell if I was overheating or not at that point. I didn't really care either. I then went back to my room and wrote a suicide note. Then I called my mom and tell her that she can have what's left in my bank account. I told her not to worry because I'm going to heaven. I then thought I was having my life flash before my eyes as I was thinking of the past memories of my life, events that I have long forgotten. At some point, I went upstairs to tell my other neighbor that I lived with, who was an old woman and I'd fallen out with her, that I was sorry and that I was dying and going to heaven. However, instead of saying I'm going to heaven like I wanted to, I mistakenly told her that I'm going to hell. I then correct myself to heaven. However, this freaked me out, and it still does to this day. After me constantly begging my friend not to call the ambulance, he eventually calls them anyway. He also thought that I was delusional for thinking that I'm going to heaven and that I'm unlikely to make it past the pearly gates for suicide. However, the suicide dose was not intentional. I didn't plan to kill myself. I just wanted to escape reality. But it turns out that binging DXM 3 days in a row and adding DPH and DMH to it is pretty fucking dangerous to say the least. I don't think I've eaten or drank a whole lot either. The paramedics took a while to arrive, and I just laid in bed with my heart rate through the roof. However, I thought to myself, why am I not dying already? I kinda just wanted to get it over with. When the paramedics finally arrived, for some reason I happily gave them my DXM and DPH stash. I regretted this later. I then thought it was a good idea that they're taking me away and not leaving my dead body for my landlord to clean up. I was fully convinced that I'm going to die in the hospital. When I finally get into the ambulance, I start to sober up to some extent and slowly start to wake up to what is actually happening. On my ride to the hospital, I wanted to drink water, but I spilled it, so I just thought, whatever, I won't drink it. It turns out that it was a good thing that I've not been drinking water so far. You will find out why later. So now I'm sitting in the hospital hooked up to IV fluids. My arms have a weird burning sensation that I've never felt before. Could this have been a taste of what could have happened if I died and went to hell? Well, that's what I was thinking at the time anyway. So because of the fluids that the doctors were giving me, I started to need to urinate, but I couldn't go. I have never in my life struggled this much to try to pee, and no matter how hard I tried to go, it was impossible. It has been hours now of me repeatedly trying to urinate and literally praying to God that I would be able to pee. I think the praying worked and little bits of pee came out, but I knew even this wasn't going to be enough, and I just really fucked up this time. The doctor then told me that in order for the urine to not start damaging my kidneys, they will have to stick a catheter in. This idea petrified me, but I literally felt like my bladder was going to explode, so I thought I had no choice. I mean, what kind of psychonaut am I if I didn't have a catheter at my dick at least once, right? I'll spare you the details of the next part. It is exactly how you think it is. However, I felt so much better, and I'm actually grateful that a catheter was an option. If my friend didn't call the ambulance and I still couldn't piss, things might have been worse. To my surprise, there was no initial pain. The pain only came after the catheter was removed. The doctor told me that when they put the catheter in, I would be able to have it taken out, but they strongly suggested that I keep it in for at least 2 to 3 weeks. I thought that there is no fucking chance of that happening, so I asked them to take it out, and after they do, it burns. Trust me, it fucking burns. I basically sat there for at least half an hour, semi-traumatized from the shock and the pain that I was experiencing, but it gets worse. When I need to pee again, just as the urine is about to come out, it starts to fucking burn so bad. I could not piss, but this time it was not because I literally couldn't, but because it hurt so fucking bad. I then begged the doctors to give me some sort of painkiller, but they refused because they were afraid to what reaction it could bring to the drugs in my system. However, I ended up demanding a painkiller and told the doctor that I literally don't care if it kills me. I just wanted to be able to relieve myself without experiencing excruciating pain. They did eventually end up giving me some painkiller, and I'm grateful for it. However, it did not help the pain that much. I had to just suck it up and man through it. The pain was decreasing as time was passing, but this process was slower than I would have liked. It has never hurt so much to pee in my life, and this experience put me off of Dramamine for good. Well, at least I hope. Even after this experience and the 3 times I've had delirium psychosis, I still ended up relapsing on DPH. The second time I had psychosis is a pretty funny story though. I can't believe how addicted I was to the combination of DXM and DPH, and I thank God that I made it through all these experiences. Please don't ever do this combination. Once you see the forbidden visuals, it will be hard to not want to see them again. One last weird thing I thought I would add. There's a famous YouTuber with the same name as me, made a video titled, "I Almost Lost My Life." Out of nowhere, he said he almost died on the same night that I went to the hospital. I think that is a very weird coincidence, and I have a strong feeling that I really should have died that day, and my depression sometimes makes me think that I wish I would have. It has been a year since then, and I'm doing better now, somewhat. I have not touched any more Dramamine, and I've only occasionally used DPH and DXM, but I have abused them so much that they almost completely lost their magic. It's a good thing, I guess. I will miss those visuals, though. Hey guys, I just want to come on here at the end of the video and say that I have been sick and the energy that I've had to make videos have been gone, but today I felt like making one, so here you go. Hope you enjoyed it. I always love delirium stories and a mix of DXM, DPH, and Dramamine. I mean, what better can you get from that, you know what I'm saying? I do have a longer video planned for Sunday or maybe Monday, I don't know. We'll see how long it takes me to do it, but it's a different topic I've never done before and no one's ever done before on YouTube, so yeah, be on the lookout for that. And please subscribe if you enjoyed this video and like it and comment down below. You know, do what you gotta do. Alright, thank you all and have a wonderful day.